presentation.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to No Flicks Given, the show where we talk about movies and stuff. Still don't have a tagline.
It's getting smaller and smaller to the point where it's like the podcast about movies.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. No one else
Yes,
says
the
that.
only
We might as well.
podcast about movies.
The only one.
We're the
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
So it's my turn to pick. Last time Frank picked, and we had to sit through the Avengers and
I'm
not
in-
the good one.
Yeah. I'm in the doghouse.
The boo
I'm
box.
Sorry.
The boo box. The boo box.
So as penance, I want to try something.
Oh, God.
I would like to introduce a new, hopefully recurring segment called PFOMO, which is Peter's fear of missing out. Because I have not seen a lot of really good movies, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to watch the astonishing number of really good movies that I have never seen.
Okay. I like this. Can we change the name? Because PFOMO is Amanda and I's safe word, so we need to do something.
Welcome to Pfister. Peter's
Great. No way to misinterpret
cool.
that.
Awesome. No, we're keeping the title, and good luck on your sex life. For my first movie, Mazel
What we
Tov, by
doing?
the way, or soon. I'm doing a movie from 1957, Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood.
Oh, shit.
I've never seen this movie. I've wanted to see this movie ever since I did Macbeth in college. I've never sat down to watch it.
Yes.
The only other Kurosawa movie I've seen is Seven Samurai. So we could do a whole series just on Kurosawa.
Oh, we got to hit Hidden Fortress.
Hidden
for
Fortress,
sure.
Yojimbo. Like I know them. They're all out there.
Rashomon, Rand.
And you know what's great about Throne of Blood? It's on HBO. The entirety of Kurosawa's catalog is on HBO.
I did not know
Hell
that.
yeah.
Holy shit.
So
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Hell yeah.
I can't
Let's
wait.
fucking do this.
I hope we all learn a little bit about cinema. I assume you've all seen this movie.
I've got a stupid. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw it in college. This is,
Yeah.
this is, I
So-
got a stupid
so
good up a face.
this is-
I haven't seen it for like 10 years, but it's so fucking good.
This is
It's
going to
so
be you
good.
guys
Yeah.
teaching me about Japanese cinema, and I can't wait.
yes.
Roll tape.
You say pro tip?
I said roll tape.
Oh,
I
roll
don't.
tape. Yeah.
Connor said some
Sorry,
Japanese gibberish.
I just yelled it. I yelled a thing that. Never mind. Let's fucking just roll it.
No. Please dig yourself out of this hole.
No, it was a thing that Mifune would yell in Rashomon a lot.
Oh, Mifune. Yes.
Mifune is the name of the main character in Throne of Blood.
It's
No,
the actor.
Mifune's
Toshiro
the
Mifune.
actor.
Yeah.
Oh,
in
yep, you're right. Never mind.
Every Kurosawa movie.
He's also
Correct.
the.
It's the name of the general in Matrix 2 and 3.
See, now I'm
As
learning
a-
something.
Peter,
already.
there's 6 figures in film degrees sitting in this call with you right now.
more than
You see how excited we all got? We're like, oh my god, I get to use that thing. Hold on, let me get it. No, it's fine. I have it.
So I'll rename the segment.
It's right here. It's just a little dust. It's fine.
Peter gives you an excuse to tell your parents that you're using your degree.
Yeah.
Can you Venmo each of us like $5 so I can say that just so I got paid? I got paid to use my degree.
Yeah, we're using our expertise here, Peter.
Sure.
Yeah. Our expertise is going to amount to. Yeah, I remember that part. All right, guys, let's do it.
I know one thing, gentlemen. I will not enjoy a Kurosawa movie until Burnham Wood meets Dunsinane.
It's a great opening line.
Have I ever told you about my desire to do a really cheesy Chicago mobsters Macbeth
I feel like
adaptation?
you might have at some point, but
You've told me.
The one thing that the only reason I want to do it is because I want to make Burnham Wood a lumber yard,
yes.
and they get to the Hotel Dunsinane in the Burnham Wood lumber trucks.
Oh, that would be great.
That I just thought that was clever. Like, I don't know, 12 years ago when Peter and I were in a production of Macbeth, and I haven't let it go since.
I mean, that is kind of the maybe the place to start, and maybe one of the reasons that I really wanted to watch this movie as sort of the first in a series of, educating myself with film school classics is like I already have a solid connection to Macbeth. I really, understand the source material and like have a deep appreciation for it, and just to see an adaptation of this where a master like Kurosawa gets his hooks into it and really takes a stab at the story, that was really interesting to me. And I've heard people talk a ton about it, and I really wanted to see if it was going to live up to the hype.
And
so
did it?
So I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked it looked as good on my 4K TV for a movie made in 1957. And I forget what cut I watched exactly, but like it was excellent. I was really impressed with some of the camera movement and some of the shots they got.
I had forgotten and was so pleased to be reminded again of just how good Kurosawa is at setting up a frame, and just like it's that the phrase "every frame a painting," but literally of just everything that's in front of the camera is there because he wants you to see it for a reason, and because that, you can look at any corner of it or any part of it and find something that's germane to the story he is trying to tell. And it was so great to see that.
Is he the best black and white filmmaker of all time? Because I almost consider him that after rewatching.
You want to throw Orson Welles up there? You want to throw?
I don't know. It's really close. It's kind of apples and oranges, except they're both black and white.
Frank, are you seriously eating on Mike?
I'm having my whole dinner right now.
This is.
Amanda gave me a plate of salmon, rice, and green beans, and I'm going to eat the whole thing.
I love you,
while we
and
record
I love
this.
your fiance. Mm-hmm. That is infuriating.
If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Look, wait. I'm going to get it on camera. It's like a whole. It's like a meal. Like I'm a person.
Dear God.
The boo box. The boo box.
We're off to a great start.
We're talking about
so
Kurosawa, Frank. Jesus Christ, have some goddamn respect.
All right. Oh wait. I want to take a.
fuck is
I
wrong
want to check in though.
Somewhere Patrick Willems just put his fist through a wall and he doesn't know why. He's just so mad at you.
If I'm the guy to finally make Willems crack and show anger, then I'll be proud. This is the sweetest
He
guy in
says
the
this
world.
while holding either, I can't
But-
tell, it's green beans or
It's a
asparagus.
green bean.
and
He's
fucking-
gesturing with a fucking green bean.
I just want to
Just-
say
I didn't mean to be
We've done
gesturing.
episodes on the worst version of the Avengers. We've done the Great Outdoors. But you're choosing.
To be fair, the second best
Well,
Avengers.
fair enough. But you're choosing Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa to
I'm hungry.
More power to you.
Shame on whoever edits this because I am ASMRing
If ever this
right into
was
the
a-
mic
yeah,
with all
oh
this
my
chewing.
God.
But I do want to check on all this is staying in. It has to, otherwise it's not going to make any sense. I do want to check in on who has seen what Kurosawa's going into this, and especially Peter, because I want to know what he's watched, what he
Yeah,
hasn't watched
I
so
would be
far.
curious too, because you're the
So,
one
so
non-film
the
student.
only other Kurosawa I've seen is Seven Samurai.
Okay.
That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, thought of a couple of upcoming episodes. we're gonna do.
I'm gonna try to like bounce around when I do choose these episodes, so it's not like 6 Kurosawas in a row because I could very easily do that.
I mean, I'm not going to be mad
yeah.
about it if you do.
But yeah, so that's the only other Kurosawa I've seen.
Okay.
Matt?
I'm
assuming you've done like Rashomon, Ron.
I've actually
I almost said Hidden
Fortress,
Figures.
yeah.
Hidden Fortress.
I've
yeah.
not done Ron. I've done those two. I've done Ikiru, and this one. So before I was even in film school in high school, one of my buddies had just decided that he was going to buy a ton of Criterion Collection DVDs. So there was like a summer that we just sat down and watched Kurosawa. We watched like whoever was whatever we could get our hands on. But this was one of the ones that we watched during those days, and then didn't revisit it really until now. But
Yeah, I haven't seen this since college either.
and it's
But
So
I've seen quite a few. I've seen
just real
quite a bit
quick,
of Kurosawa.
so Peter knows when I say the movie Ron. Take a guess on what year the movie Ron came out.
I just looked it up.
You looked it up.
Yeah, which is incredible.
which has a through line to this.
We were
film.
in our father's. Yeah. No, we were. Yeah, it's crazy. Connor, I'm assuming you've seen. Oh, do you have any any like egregious blind spots when it comes to Kurosawa? We've named all the the
I
essentials.
feel like the
Yeah.
only other one that's on my list that you guys haven't talked about is Yojimbo.
Yeah, well,
Oh.
Yojimbo.
Oh yeah, I actually haven't. Seen, I have
Yeah.
not
Okay.
seen
Yojimbo's
it.
so good. Senjuro is
I hear
the
it's good.
sequel, and I actually prefer Senjuro. Well, last time I watched them, I preferred Senjuro because it's funny. It's like just a straight up comedy. But I've seen quite a few. The one in my the big one in my blind spot that people that I respect like a lot is Dodesicadon or Dodescadon, which is that's in his later period. That's in 1970. And there's another one.
Did we say Rashomon yet?
Yeah.
Well,
or at
yeah,
least I
yeah.
mentioned it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the list. I've seen Stray Dog, Rashomon, Ikiru, Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood, The Bad Sleep Well, which is fucking awesome, by the way. That movie's great.
Okay.
Yojimbo, Senjuro, Ron, Kagemusha, which
Okay.
I want to love Ron.
I keep
and
promising myself I'm
Kagemusha,
not
but-
going to talk while I chew, but I keep doing it.
it just
okay.
means you're editing the episode.
So now
Yeah.
I'm not. No way would I do this to myself.
He didn't.
But I do want to know where we stand as far as Macbeth iterations too. Like let's put some cards on the table with like what we've seen and where this ranks in terms of them, because like this is very like checking all the boxes. I thought this was more a cultural retelling, but it's like very standard Macbeth plot for plot.
I mean,
all
yeah,
the way
short of
through.
direct translation of the prose, this is the plot elements and the characters.
This is
stripped down.
Macbeth
Yeah. Oh,
to a T.
It's
It's pretty close. It's been very streamlined.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's been
yes,
yeah.
incredibly streamlined. Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
little
Which it can
little
be.
things that are
Yeah.
kind of not little, like having one ghost instead of three witches, having his final downfall be a hail of arrows instead of a one-on-one fight
Which-
with Macduff.
Did
All right.
did everybody else read the thing about this?
No.
Yes, I did.
They-
and I knew it, and I still read it again.
They shot arrows at him. They had
Oh, yeah, yeah.
professional archers shoot at him in very targeted spots. So like that's him getting shot with fucking arrows.
There's a great Criterion piece on how they did that. They did an interview years later with the guy that was like the head bow archery guy.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
It's so it's insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I that's one of the things that struck me, I think, too, about this film is how he doesn't go overboard with violence, blood, and gore, but he's very targeted with how he displays violence. And when he does display it, it's so visceral that it disturbs you more than like the hardest R movie.
Yeah. Oh, when in Throne of Blood, when Macbeth, because I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Washizu, I think.
Yeah, stabs the assassin messenger.
Oh my
guy.
god.
And because of the contrast in the black and the white, you can't actually see that there's a growing pool of blood under him, but there's like a little bit of a reflection off of it, and then when he falls, you hear like a splash sound.
Yeah.
Like that is so much more visceral than at like the end of Senjuro when there's a little geyser of blood coming out of a guy.
Yeah. Even when they talk about the original traitor that they defeated who killed himself in that room, and you never
that
see
room,
it, you
yeah.
just see the room, and it's just exactly that's just blood on the walls, and they can't clean it up, and it's haunting and disturbing.
No, see, that's an addition to
that
the original.
room is the bloodiest black and white blood I've
Right.
ever seen. I think that room is the most gory, violent, non-action sort of
Yeah.
set piece.
What's
I can
interesting
comprehend.
is I didn't see it as like just covered in gore from top to bottom. I saw like little blood stains, but that's like the interpretive angle that you can take with black and white, because you have that one layer of abstraction.
Yeah.
You don't know where the blood starts and the wall ends.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes.
it's just splotchy, and you're like,
Like the thing you thought was blood could be the only clean part of
exactly,
the wall.
exactly. And the bloodstained room is a thing that was added from the original. That's not in Macbeth.
No.
Yeah, that's not from anything.
One of the
No.
few times I've seen any creator in any medium add something to the text of Macbeth and elevate the stuff that happens around it.
Yeah.
Because, like, they don't do like is this a dagger I see before me thing. They don't even visually interpret that, but they use that instead as its
Which is great.
as a yeah.
Well, it's funny because
So
so many filmmakers rely on the prose of any Shakespeare to make their story, and suddenly, like, Kurosawa's like, oh, I can't use any of that. Like, I have to completely create it from scratch. It doesn't work at all. So, like, what do I find to still like upscale the source material? So it's really interesting in that sense.
Well, and Kurosawa is the kind of filmmaker that would take, even if he was doing an English version of Macbeth, he would try to figure out how to make it cinema and not just a filmed performance of Macbeth, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with the filmed performance of Macbeth, but like the version with Patrick Stewart, Star Trek's Patrick Stewart,
The masterpiece.
it's not a piece of cinema. It's a piece of theater adapted for motion picture cameras.
Yeah.
And Kurosawa is a cinema guy through and through.
So back to your original question, Frank, about like other productions of Macbeth that we've seen. Besides like the multiple stage versions I've seen, the only other production I think on film that I've seen, and I don't really count the Patrick Stewart one because I think that was mostly an adaptation of what he did on stage. But I think the one that was specifically made for film that I saw was the Michael Fassbender one from 2015.
Was that any good?
I've heard it's okay.
It is okay. It doesn't do anything mind blowing. It just Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard really wanted to play the roles, and they do
It
pretty good
feels
jobs.
much more like an exercise than it
Yes.
does like a movie. Because the big thing that they're doing in that movie is, what if we can take words written for the stage and play them as close and as quietly as we
Yes.
possibly can to build up tension in the space between the two faces.
And leaning into the Braveheart era Scottish blue
Yeah,
face paint.
I was going to say,
kill.
so, and that's sort of always been my pet peeve with people who are trying to redo something Shakespearean when you're doing Macbeth or like any of the big ones, of how do I make it mine? And just we're going to do Hamlet as if he was actually a Danish prince and do this whole thing, and
Sure.
it never, because Shakespeare has never been gritty real. It's supposed to be heightened. It's supposed to be theatrical. So and I think that's one of the strengths of this movie is that obviously throwing out the prose, but taking just the theatrical elements of how you tell this story visually, and not trying to lend necessarily to realism.
Which is why the one movie that I wanted to watch in addition to Throne of Blood was the recent Joel Cohen version,
The tragedy.
with Denzel Washington and Fred. Yeah, the tragedy, but shot in black and white,
Yeah.
very like German impressionist like styling. So bringing the prose to a very stylized medium. Which Kurosawa just has the stylized and is telling it from a visual and cinematic perspective, but it feels like Cohen is almost responding to that and saying, "Okay, cool, but what if you put the prose back in?"
Sure.
And that's my impression just from like the little clips that I've seen, but I haven't actually seen the film to confirm that that's actually the case.
Has anyone seen that one yet? It's on my list. I
haven't
do want to
either.
really see it, but I do want to ask. So Peter, you've never seen the Polanski version from
I haven't seen the Polanski and I haven't seen the
70s?
Orson Welles version. No.
I know he's horrible.
He's a bad
Yeah.
caveat. He's a bad man. He's a bad man.
Bad man.
Don't
Shows,
pay for it. Don't
but,
pay for it if you watch it.
Yeah, don't pay for it. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. It's really fucking good. Like I don't know if I put this or that higher as far as like a Macbeth adaptation. Honestly,
Who plays
I liked
Macbeth
the-
in that one?
John
What?
Finch.
Nobody will know.
I don't know.
That
I don't know him.
Okay, I was just curious. But yeah,
There's a few. It's like it has crazy special effects for like a movie, like that old of a movie. It has this weird thing where it's just like it like dollies into a mirror and suddenly it's in another room. Like it just does this stuff where like I don't
that's cool.
understand how, like 4 or 5 times. It doesn't make sense.
God, I love old school filmmaking.
That's-
Before we started rolling on this, we were talking about Eternals, which I just watched last night, and
Here we
like the difference between that, which is considered like the cinema of today, and the specificity and control of every single image, of the collaboration with the performers, of the sense of scale and scope. I mean, I would suggest that Throne of Blood is a more epic movie than Eternals, despite the fact that it's Eternals is a huge movie that's like 3 times as long as Throne of Blood.
yeah.
Just because like the filmmaking chops and the discipline is so much more on screen in Throne of Blood.
Yeah, I mean that, and that's the thing that when watching the from start to finish is just being put back into the lens of being a film student again, kind of, and watching a movie and actively thinking about every single sequence and trusting that the creative team behind the film, like I said, kind of what I was talking to earlier, where everything that's in front of the camera is there because it's supposed to be and because they want you to see something. And to be it kind of the way that you would do same critical analysis of a novel. And just like that was weirdly refreshing because it's something that I haven't had to or done in a couple years at least now.
Well, and I appreciate too the fact that Kurosawa was very interested in bringing this story to a Japanese culture and telling it in a way that they already have a lot of sort of the cliff notes. I mean, the fact that Lady Mac literally has horns. Did you notice that? Like above her eyebrows,
Oh.
they don't. She looks demonic, and so you're automatically like she is not to be trusted.
I just know the thing about how she wasn't allowed to blink while she was on camera.
Yes.
Which I noticed early on. I was like, does Lady Macbeth blink in Throne of Blood? And it was like, no, she doesn't. And I was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't noticing something that wasn't there.
She also doesn't look him in the eyes for like half the movie. Like
So the reason for all of that is that he is doing his own interpretation of a style of play called No, which is like a cousin to Kabuki. So normally when the actors are performing on stage, they have masks that specify each emotion. So if you think of like Lady Hexadecimal from Reboot, how she has different masks for different emotions, it's like that, where they're literally putting on a different mask when they feel something new. So that's why her mouth barely moves, is that she has one emotion the whole time, and that is ambition. And ambition at all costs. And the second she comes on screen, anybody from Japan that's ever seen a No play knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah. There's so much fucking every frame is so dense. But like everything with her but even you and my interpretation of it too when I was watching it is very much is the dynamic that I expect from Macbeth and Lady Macbeth of she doesn't respect him. Yeah. She's the one with the ambition, and you know, why would she even bother to meet him? You know, to meet his eyes, because he's just kind of her tool to get what she wants. and like it established in my mind the traditional power dynamic of those two characters, and you don't start to see that facade crack until way later in the film after he has his buddy killed.
And going into that further, like he incorrectly acts like he is the one with the power for the first part, where he misunderstands her lack of connection with him as a sign of like female weakness, instead of her like twirling him around his finger in a lot of ways. This like struck that relationship.
And this adaptation does a really good job of making that clear, because his reaction to everything that she says in the return from battle scene is fear. The thing that like there's like, you know, there's lots of conversation in you know, Shakespearean circles about like why did Macbeth do what Macbeth does. Like it's never made entirely clear.
James Cameron did what James Cameron does because he's James Cameron. Sorry, it's right there.
And you know, it seems like Kurosawa and Mifune were basically settled on he's scared shitless that the other guy is going to come for him if he doesn't do the same thing.
Yeah.
Which they made that explicit in a way that I really, really appreciated, and was done really, really well.
Yeah.
And Mifune is so good. I gotta take a second to just be like, holy shit, this dude is awesome. The scene where that really like stapled it in for me, where I was like, I am all on board, is when they're both given their respective fortresses.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And they turn around and they're marching back through the men, and their faces are just so freaked out.
That's my favorite shot of the movie. It's my favorite. It's the drum beat in the back. It's the way that the camera's moving with them, the way that it's framed, the two expressions. Everything about that sequence is perfect.
The torches. I was trying to think of where George Lucas would have stolen that shot, but I don't think he did.
Not really.
It feels like a very George Lucas steals this shot kind of shot.
There's a little bit.
You better believe there's B-roll footage. There is something on the cutting room floor from the award ceremony at the first Star Wars where they're marching back through. Yeah.
It had a The Graduate final shot with them with the medals, just kind of like standing there. Two things. One, has there ever been a director that was better at filming a specific actor than Kurosawa with Mifune? Like, has there ever been a better pairing? It's Spielberg and John Williams. Like, there's no comparison to it. There's nobody that you can. Maybe Scorsese and De Niro is like the closest second.
Maybe say Scorsese and De Niro.
Yeah,
and then
DiCaprio.
Well, my other one was going to be Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
I mean,
but I don't
honestly, that's actually the closer second in my book.
That's actually correct.
That's
actually correct.
That's a close one. But
no man
also,
has ever looked that good, as good
as
Bruce Campbell in Evil Dead 2.
Oh my god, yeah.
You know.
But Matt, you mentioned the drums there. One thing that stuck out to me was like how I wanted to say modern, but I'll say advanced. The spotting was of where the music goes in this movie, where it's like, this is like so many other older films of this time, especially American films, would just like have score, just like here and there, as if random. This was so modern with how where it picked to put music and where it picked not to. And like when, more so than that, when in a scene was the beat they decided was like the like stretched to the limit, now music has to kick in because it's pushed too far here. It's really, really good when score jumps in.
Yeah, it's very sparse but tactical.
And again, the sort of chanting at the beginning and the end is indicative of the nose style. To let
I was
you know.
wondering if that was the case, because it felt very like Greek theater.
Yeah,
like
the chorus.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But I figured, Japan being its own country with a very long history and culture, they probably would have stumbled upon the same thing as well.
But I think Kurosawa was, and I guess John Ford too at the same time, were both hyper aware of the cultural similarities between East and West that they were able to sort of like it might have been a 20 or 30 year period where Kurosawa and Ford were like playing hot potato with like the zeitgeist, where one person would make a film, the other one would remake it, or like this, or vice versa, or so on. And they were very keen on like not being blinded by what was quote unquote Japanese about this and what was not, and vice versa, where it was like Kurosawa was so good at being true to like Japanese culture while still understanding what is universal about Macbeth specifically and this type of story. And like for him to see the similarity between feudal Japan and Western medieval Middle Age periods and feudalism.
Feudal Scotland.
Yeah, it's just like you. This is a period where like you are headfirst into your own culture. You are not looking for similarities, and for him to do that is like light years beyond what people were thinking about at the time, even just beyond just creatives.
Well, I mean, what the thing that they had in common was like the language of cinema, like the language of pointing cameras at things and creating images tends to be the same across all cultures. It's just what you put in front of the camera that sort of culturifies it, if you will. And John, I like that you bring up John Ford, because John Ford, in my mind, is sort of the American equivalent of a guy that with the cinematic discipline to make everything, correct.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think either of them would have been as successful without the other one, and I don't know how much they spoke or if they ever actually met or whatnot, but like in my mind, they are a double helix DNA strand of cinema for that period, where like they are collectively bouncing stuff off each other. They're like Spielberg and Kubrick sending faxes of camera angles to each other like late at night. Like it's fascinating. I hope to God they got a chance to sort of speak through. For a
quick Google
there.
suggests that they were both mutual fans of each other. Although John Ford's career,
of course,
John Ford's career goes back to like the silent era. So he'd been working for a long time.
No. John Ford was ahead, and a lot of basically like so much of like cinema now is like America had the ball, or like the world had the ball, and then America created like the blockbuster, and then Kurosawa took that and refined it into something crazy, and then that became what Lucas and Spielberg sort of like it was this sort of like taking your turns, putting your different germs into it thing before we get to today. And now we're like that's kind of the broadest strokes of like where mainstream sort of cinema went with it. But yeah, but I think Ford also, his later movies were some of his later ones, I can't remember any of the names now, but like they were a response to Kurosawa's response to him in many ways. I'd have to look it up and sort of see. So much of what they did, and they were working for so long. And
then you actually, their careers overlap in such a way that, John Ford dies in like the mid 70s, and then Sergio Leone and Kurosawa start sending things back and forth to each other.
So I knew John Ford was a legend, but I'm looking at his filmography, and
dude.
made 100 movies.
We
like,
could
this
do
is
an
insane.
entire podcast
Just on
like fuck this and just watch John Ford movies for the next like 3 years.
I want to watch his 1942 sex hygiene film that he made for the U.S. Army Signal Corps, a 30-minute training film.
That's not what most people would pick first, but I like the initiative.
Just a little. That it's like a Pixar short before
sure
it's the feature film.
I don't know if anything about how people were cleaning themselves in the 40s is still relevant, but like let's find out. Let's see.
I like it.
You have to brush your teeth to the length of the Our Father.
No, it was sexual hygiene. So it's if you have
still
stuff
have to
That
brush
is
your
considered
teeth.
sexual hygiene, and then Ford is brushing your
Yeah.
teeth.
Now I know both of your problems. But I mean, so one of the things that's really interesting to me with Macbeth, and Macbeth has always been my favorite Shakespeare. I don't know if I said that earlier, but one of the things that's always interesting to me because of the nature of how the story goes is how much how much are you going to end up blaming Macbeth for what happens to him, and how much is it going to be sort of like he's forced into, like he's fated to have this happen to him? And every version picks a different level to it, where it's like some versions are like, oh, this guy's a fucking asshole, he could have easily walked away from this, and there's other versions, I think, like this one, which is like, this one is pretty hard to, like, he's pushed pretty hard, I think, to Matt doesn't agree at all.
But that's my general
face, but,
well, continue and then I'll say my thing.
But I think he's still, I mean, he's still awful because he's always going, Macbeth is never going to be a hero. He's a tragic character. But I think compared to most versions of Macbeth, I feel like he has very few moments where he has a chance to do anything other than, because this is so streamlined, the only information he's getting is reinforcing what he has to do. He doesn't have anything else pushing him in a different direction.
That's another thing. Real quick, the way that Kurosawa deals with what people know and how they know it in Throne of Blood is genius.
Yeah, it's great.
Because the first 15 minutes of the movie is just a series of messengers running in to tell the Lord, the Great Lord, what's going on in the battlefield. And the rest of the movie is messengers entering a room, giving a piece of information about something that's going on outside of the space that we're in, and that's all they know.
Which is very traditional Shakespearean, is like the action's happening somewhere else and we're going to hear about it here in front of the stage.
Right, but his reaction is entirely based on that information. No information outside of that exchange.
Yes,
which makes his, sort of getting back to what you were talking about, Frank, his decision making is formed by that, and that sort of contributes to the, is Macbeth evil or was it his fate question? Which I think the essence, I think the point of Macbeth is that it's both and it's neither.
Yeah, I don't want this to turn into an English lit podcast, but my take on Macbeth, his tragic flaw is he is a mediocre man placed in exceptional circumstances. And so
I like that.
He's not evil, he's just not good enough. And he's not,
and he married poorly.
And you can take that kind of either way, that's his, to me, his tragic flaw. And so I don't see him as evil, but I also don't pity him either, because in every iteration that I have seen and in most of the readings is just he is following the leader, whether it's his wife or whether it's the witches or in this case the spirit of the forest, whatever. He doesn't have the faculties to produce his own success, and he's made a life and career of following breadcrumbs for everybody else. It just happens that this is the wrong set of breadcrumbs and it's led him in the wrong direction. It's just because this is what he's done, all because it's worked so far. And so that's my reading of it for him. So I don't feel bad for him really ever.
No, I've never felt bad. It's more a matter of, and maybe this is too nuanced to be interesting, but like it's a matter of how much it really comes down to like the way you play the Lady Macbeth character, where it's like, okay, how much is she is she always going to get her way no matter what he does, or does he actually have the resolve to get out of this, or is he going to go like the way, depending on how much of a tidal wave you write Lady Macbeth and like you said, the witches or the Ghost of the Forest, how much you write them as this sort of gravity well changes it. That to me is the interesting part with any new iteration of Macbeth, where it's like, okay, how much of this is him and how much of this is what's happening to him? And it's always going to be both, but that difference between 41% and 59% or whatever it ends up being is like that. I'm always curious about what the directors sort of lean on.
So I tend to agree with Matt in his interpretation of like who Mac is at his core, because Matt's totally right that he is a guy who made his success following orders. Yeah, he's a good soldier.
Mm-hmm. That's his one skill.
His best friend is also a soldier. Like if you were like, to make the modern day Mac, it's a dude who dropped out of high school, found out he's pretty good at going to Afghanistan and keeping his stuff clean and keeping his buddies safe, comes back and somebody tells him that he's inherited an oil field, and his wife is like, you go get that shit for me. And I think that's, maybe a broad analogy, but it's effectively a guy who doesn't know any better, and then when he's presented with something that in the first 30 minutes is considered to be the first choice he's ever had to make in his life, which is, do I believe this crazy person that is spouting nonsense about my future or not? And do I tell my wife about it? Because that kicks off the whole thing. If he does not tell his wife about what was prophesized, nothing happens.
And the ultimate failing too is he has complete faith in the flawed system that's brought him this success. So and it's that moment at the end of the film where he has seen the ghost and he's like, "Hey, I can't fail because this ghost told me this specific set of things," and just it brings him into the delusions of grandeur of like his own, like, oh, I am flawless. I can't possibly fail because this got me this far, so it will clearly bring me to the finish line. It's just not the finish line he's looking for.
Did Tolkien specifically steal that for the Witch King when they're like, you'll never die? But the Witch King has like a prophecy where it's like, you'll never die by a man's hand or something like that.
Yeah, the monkey's paw.
No man can kill me.
Is
that
a fairly common thing. So
yeah, but I think, I feel like it has to be this specifically that Tolkien would. But yeah, maybe you're right.
Oh, I was gonna say that it is a fun. I was gonna call it a Shakespeare's monkey paw, where on the surface it reads as one thing, and Mac is like, it can't be anything other than this, and they're like, the finger closed, and he got everything that they prophesized, except for that one like caveat, the only caveat that they could possibly have, and then he gets screwed because of it.
And then he gets a fucking arrow in the neck, which was really disturbing when I saw that the first time, by the way.
So awesome.
Getting back to the movie Throne of Blood,
Yes.
I think the image of him falling down in front of what seems like a million soldiers in the fog, pincushioned with arrows, might be one of the greatest images in cinema history.
Yeah.
Because
It's up there for sure.
that is I have not seen an image that compelling in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know how Kurosawa did it, but he directed the fog.
Yeah.
Like the fog
yeah, fog
itself
machines.
moves out from under his body to be like perfect. Everything about that shot. I wanted, ever since we recorded the intro to this, I've wanted to I've had this recurring exchange in my head where we just did the voice where it's like the M saying how British am I to
Matt Gorley,
Bond. Where I wanted, before Peter saw the movie, I wanted to be like, Peter, how many arrows? What do you mean? How many arrows?
All the arrows, all of them.
It's however many you think. Every time you watch this movie, it's more arrows than you think it's going to be. It's so many. Someone needs to have counted it. It must be 800 arrows.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back. You understand knowing that directors like Polanski and Lucas and Spielberg were influenced by Kurosawa, where their headspace is at of the compulsion for complete control over their elements, and especially in the almost pathological way George Lucas's fixation on it, because the way that Kurosawa produces these shots, it's having control over such a small thing as the fog, but creating a shot like that or a sequence like that sticks in your head forever. That just is pure art, in my humble opinion, and I get that.
Speaking of, like, I had in my notes, one of the very first notes is the fortress just appearing in the fog is incredible.
Yeah.
But the first thing that it reminded me of is the revelation of Camelot in the Holy Grail. I'm like, Terry Gilliam, I think, stole some shots from Kurosawa.
If you're going to steal from the best.
Yeah. And I mean, but the one thing I'm not sure about is I was trying to do some research on this, but I didn't get any clear answers. Are there different subtitle translations of this film? Because
That's a great
from
question.
the little bit of research
Why?
I did, yes, because when I was watching the Criterion piece about the head archer, the arrow designer.
Yeah.
The line that he says that the line that one of the archers below says is different between
Yeah.
the two, because one is like and what happened to our old lord, and the other one's like, well, and who killed the last lord.
Yeah.
It's something very subtle, but the Criterion translation is much better than HBO Max.
Well, as I watched it on HBO Max as well, and the thing that tipped me off to it is when I was reading into it on Wikipedia, just like the names of things are different, like the fact that they refer to the castle as just like the Forest Castle in HBO Max, when there's this whole thing about Spider's Web Forest and Spider's Web Castle, and this that I missed completely by having only watched it on HBO Max and not on Criterion.
Bummer.
And that was my first indication that something might be amiss. So I would be very curious to see whether somebody just from HBO did a translation, or whether there's what's going on there, because I feel like I might have missed something.
That's so funny you say that, because I felt that I got that vibe from the fort names, where it's like it's sometimes it's the first fort, sometimes it's Fort 1. I was like, something feels off. Something feels like they're poorly translating this.
And
right
I had
now.
like PTSD
wow.
flashbacks to the complete evisceration of Let the Right One In's subtitles between the theatrical release and the DVD release. So,
Which, again, a fantastic movie.
yeah, but with Throne of Blood, like I might need to borrow a Criterion DVD to see what the differences, at least in the subtitles, are as far as translation goes, because I feel like if you're watching it on HBO Max, it might be a little different than what you're seeing if you got it elsewhere.
Speaking of the castle, holy shit, that castle set.
Right? At the steps of Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, and they shot it there because there was so much fog around Mount Fuji. But like when the messengers ride into that set, there's like that like a little wisp of fog on the ground,
Yeah.
and like no plant life. It's just like the wood of the castle and the dirt. You're like, oh, this is a grave.
Yeah.
We're already there. And the way, and like the texture of that like parapet that Macbeth is in, like looking down at the forest, the layers of depth and the grain of the wood and the like that dark black color that it is in that black and white film, absolutely gorgeous,
Dude, every like fourth shot of this movie was like, how did they get
Yeah.
that?
Oh, yeah.
How did they film that? Like, really? Like the shot of the first time he sees the forest come to life and come towards him, it still like is haunting, because it doesn't make sense to me, because it looks like full-size trees moving like people through fog.
It was full-size trees in the wind. He was cranking the cameras to get the slow motion effect. But yeah, it's still it's still very much just like how the it goes. And this is the thing. This is why I went to school for film, is shit like this, where you're watching a filmmaker do things, and it's watching the magic trick and trying to figure out how the hell they put this together. And it only makes it more enticing the more, not confused, but the more curious you are by how it got done. And I don't want to knock it. I don't want to necessarily knock modern filmmaking in terms of, oh, they don't make them like they used to, because I'm sure there's a ton of movies that came out in 1957 that were god awful and poorly made. but just as far as like the major film releases that you see today, there's something about it that they're unless you're watching a David Fincher film, unless you're watching Chris Nolan or whatever, and you're missing that there's a look and a consciousness of choice of what you're putting in front of the camera that I don't feel like is necessarily as there with the big blockbuster movies now as there might have been then.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't seem to be as thought through in the same way. Because it's a lot of, I mean, with the Marvel movies especially, it's just sort of like capture a clean image and we will animate around it.
Yeah, the we'll fix it in post thing.
But even, I mean, in this one movie, it runs the gamut from like the reason why the arrows look like they're as close to Mifune as they are is because they shot it on a long lens and used the compression effect to make it look like the arrows were I mean, they were definitely close. It wasn't like they were, feet away.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
To like, they just got a bunch of like laborers to carry trees
Yeah.
through some fog. And that's a film effect. Yeah, God, he's so good. He's so fucking good.
Yeah,
guys.
it's he's using every single tool at his disposal to create a scene. And it's just I am awestruck every time that I watch it because I'm recognizing all of the shit that's going into just like this, like the smallest shots, because he wants you to see what he wants you to see, and he is very careful about what he wants you to see.
Even the blocking of
Everything.
I feel like it feels insulting. We're saying Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, but I don't know any of the names. But the way
It's Washizu and Asaji
but
are the characters.
but the way they're moving around the room when it's just the two of them,
yeah.
and it's an empty, huge room. It could be a fucking airplane hangar for all I care. Just the way they walk and where they go. And there's certain times where I'm like, they'll take a step forward, and the light will hit the side of their face, and I'm like, how the fuck did you know to put a light there? Like,
and
it's
how
crazy.
precisely does Mifune have to hit his mark for it to work exactly as it does? Like, all of that is insane.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's the magic of Mifune is he was just as disciplined about his craft as Kurosawa was about his.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
can you
crazy.
imagine?
It's crazy.
You also have to
Oh,
think
yeah.
that they must have rehearsed the shit out of
That's
this
it.
movie.
I think that's a thing that like no American filmmaker has really had is just like time to fuck around.
Kubrick being maybe the only exception.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a. Speaking of every frame of painting, there's a great piece from years ago about how the frustrations Jackie Chan had moving from Chinese cinema to American, where it's like it's so annoying how I don't have time to do take after take to get it just right. Like you have to just move on because the money's so
Or
tight.
have months and months to prepare a fight, and then
Yeah.
Months and months to prepare. Can we talk about the swishy sound of Lady Macbeth's dress? Because
Yeah.
I loved that. It was always there every time she walked. It was like it was as if it's watering down a classic film, and I don't care. But it was like adding the squeaky shoe sound to Kung Pao when he's walking.
God.
You know
what reminds me of Throne of Blood? Kung Pao.
But what was nice about it was like it was one of the most movies of the 50s and so on of this era do not care that much about texture of material or like the specific. Like they would just add footsteps. They would not add the sound of the dress itself, the specific sound of the dress swishing past itself the way you would. And like the visceralness of so many of the sounds. The sound of the fucking arrows hitting the wood is haunting. And I swear to God, Peter, rewatch the end of this movie knowing that Mifune's really getting shot with arrows. He is so fucking scared in so many shots that like Mifune, top 10 best actors of all time. He's in my list, top 10 easily, but he's not acting. He is so fucking stressed at the end of this movie where you can see the jump. You can see when it's a shot where he knows he's safe and he's doing the thing, and then a shot where he's like about to scream his mom's name. Like he's just like,
Well, there's that one shot right where he kind of pulls the first one out of his leg. And he's like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Like now, I'm wondering, did he really get shot in the leg?
I don't think he got hit. I don't think we would know if he got hit with any.
So the way that they did that, any time where like an arrow goes into Mifune or the first few arrows that shoot, there's actually a like fishing line basically tacked up to the wall, and the archer shoots it, and the arrow basically follows is like sitting in the fishing line and sort of sails directly to where the tack is, which is why he can then pull it out of the wall.
And with his armor too, they do that.
Yeah,
Where,
well,
like that's how you see it going.
Yeah, they do that with his armor. But he was like, if you look, the armor that he's wearing is way more heavy duty than the armor he's worn through the rest of the movie. Because they put like plywood in there to make sure nothing got through. But still, his whole face is exposed.
Yeah. And one of the other things, too, that I had forgotten but re-remembered and so thoroughly enjoy about black and white film is when you don't have to focus on color, how much you can focus on texture and pattern. And one of the things, and it's kind of dumb, but it just struck me every time I saw it, is all of the designs on the trousers of all the samurai warriors and the different.
I kept looking at that too.
Don't samurai pants look so fucking comfortable?
I just like the whole time I'm watching that, going like, I could I could buy a pair of sweats on Etsy that looked like that. That would be all that I would wear until I die. But
oh, Katie.
So I did have a friend who made me a pair of those samurai pants once upon a time.
No shit.
Out of Kermit the Frog material.
I remember those.
I swear to God, if you stand up right now.
Actually, I think I have them in this room, but I will not get them. But they are incredibly comfortable.
Our for those of us who were in film classes, our film teachers would always talk about how, like, once the switch happened from black and white to color, how like lighting became a little bit less important and like all that sort. But it's insane how much focus. Like speaking of. The Asagi character, when she's moving around, not only are you hearing the silk rubbing against as she's walking through stuff, but that where she goes to get the drugged sake and she just disappears into black and comes back in. Oh my God. And he just holds on the shot and it's amazing.
It's almost an Austin Powers gag. Like the difference between that being a joke and it being visceral is like adding a few extra frames of black in there when she goes in. And like, had it been a little tighter, it would have been funny. But the fact that he hits it where it was like ghostly and haunting.
It's the way the shadow eats her.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the way the shadow just sort of absorbs, like because like the way the light wraps or the shadow wraps, because it's not light, it's lack of light. But the way that wraps around her as she goes in is what makes it look so fucking terrifying.
That immediately made me think of that shot from Parasite.
Oh yeah.
Where the guy's coming up from the basement.
Oh,
and
God.
You just see his head.
But and it goes back to how precise you have to be. Like the lighting has to be exactly where it is. You have to be stopped down to exactly where you are. Otherwise, you're going to catch something in the background. Like all of that has to come together in a musical piece.
And shooting on film, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you can't see it. Matt, were you and I in the same class where they explained how no one, like, there's only like 10 people at the time. I mean, this is 10 years ago, but there's only like 10 people that still know how to light black and white properly. How like it's the difference.
That might have gotten thrown around. Yeah.
Yeah, we were in like an auditorium at Hunter, and they were talking about how like there's just like there are so few people that like actually classically know how to light for black and white film. Most will just like light for color, and then you just take the color out of it. Versus like that difference is monumental. Where you see the difference between a movie like can't think of but like something like Roma, which was like fucking gorgeously black and like lit perfectly for a black and white movie, versus like I don't know, maybe The Artist.
I was gonna say The Artist.
Yeah, The Artist is like was color and they just dial it back, or something like that. But
Schindler's List.
I feel like Schindler's List is pretty good. I don't know.
I would have to go back and watch it, but I'm not necessarily in the mood to go do that right now.
Yeah.
Well, guys, next week, guess what?
Actually, that's the element of the new Macbeth adaptation that I'm most interested in, is how they
The black and white.
Yeah, because from the trailer, like not only does it look like it's black and white, but it's also super sharp.
That's actually it's sort of it's more focusing on Macbeth than Throne of Blood, but. My reading of the character of Macbeth has always been he is generally a younger man.
Yes.
So it was weird to like, and it even bothers me with the Patrick Stewart one of like, he is more than a touch too old to be playing this particular character.
If you can conceivably play Lear,
Patrick
you
Stewart
should not be
definitely
playing
too
Mac.
old. And Patrick Stewart is like add 10 years onto his actual age, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, which is a little bit like Denzel.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing is I watched Denzel. I was like,
I
why
think
do we
it
keep
still
doing
works
old?
either way. Where like, yes, Macbeth in my mind is same as you guys, younger guy, is his first chance for like rising up the ranks. But There is a version where Macbeth is a character that has missed his chance, is over the hill,
Yeah.
and has this opportunity
The fifth year
presented to him.
the fifth
and-
year senior.
Well, it's like or the system puts you where you're useful, and if he's a useful warrior and not a useful leader, then they're just going to keep him as a warrior.
And he just stays there, and he's Tom Cruise in Top Gun 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's also
But
it's also
that's
one of those things like when he's named Thane of Cawdor, it's like everybody else is dead, so you're the guy in charge now.
Guess it. Yeah. But I think this film strikes the right medium. I think it's because both Mifune and Isuzu Yamada were like around 40, which I think is an okay age.
Yeah.
For,
And they Mifune's makeup, like making every
the eyes.
line in his face just like inches deep instead of just regular skin.
Yeah.
just the
That's actually another thing. I want to go back and rewatch to see if his makeup gets
Yeah.
darker, like as he's getting more stressed out and
Exactly.
kind of like
wonder.
going insane. Yeah.
well, I just the banquet scene is it's literally the barest set you could possibly have.
It's a
And
wooden
you're
box.
and you're just watching Toshiro Mifune just fuck around.
Well, and-
not fuck around is too much. It's like he's
well, and
acting.
find out.
Well, yeah.
Well,
he's doing
but-
he's doing his thing. Well, and also it's
Yeah.
it's Kurosawa doing his thing too, because like
Yeah.
the way that he makes the ghost disappear is the simplest little trick of like dolly out, ghost, dolly in, scared Mifune, dolly back out, no ghost. So the actor just
Yeah.
got up and left, but it's chilling.
Yeah, it's so
And it
fucking
works so
effective.
much better than any CG
Oh, yeah.
bullshit, any
Yeah.
like, it's really awesome.
The ghosts in the forest. The fact that they had them spinning thread
Well,
or whatever that
so
was.
While
What was that?
vis-a-vis what Matt brought up about the different translations, the ghost in on Wikipedia is listed as the spirit of the spider's web.
Yeah, which is completely lost.
So he's a ghost that's he's spinning, or she or they. It's
well, so it was a female actress but dubbed over by a male actor.
oh, there you go. So
but they say she,
they
don't they?
do say she, but I was also like
in
confused.
HBO.
like-
but who
yeah.
knows?
But
Yeah.
so she's spinning a spider's web.
Which to me, not knowing that translation, I made the Greek mythology connection
Right.
of like
well, that's the other
threads
thing
of
too.
fate.
It's like that's like the bag of tricks that Kurosawa's playing with. It's like she's the spirit of the spider web, but she's also a emissary of fate. So she's also spinning the thread of fate, like the fates
Yeah.
do. It's a smart movie made by smart people. It's like just a good movie.
Yeah, and it's only 110 minutes long.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other thing too. After watching the like almost 3-hour Eternals last night, when I sat down to watch this morning and it was only like 110 minutes, I was so happy.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 movies I've watched have been The Batman, the Eternals, and then Throne of Blood. And Throne of Blood is so much better than both those movies, and it's half the length. Although The Batman is pretty good. And I like it.
It's pretty
You
good.
fucking
I like
love
Eternals.
the Batman.
I like Eternals.
Matt, there is so little left of you visually right now.
I know. Yeah.
Speaking
the sun is
of being
completely
eaten
set
by the
on me.
dark,
It's actually kind of cool. I feel like that's that. But while we still have the last bit of Matt's face left, any last minute thoughts?
I want Peter to watch the Polanski version for
Yeah.
sure. I want to hear about it.
It's
interesting.
Sure.
This is. I mean, it. For me, the competition isn't that strong, but this is definitely my favorite adaptation of Macbeth for film.
This probably takes the cake, but that is the second. Either way, they are 1 and 2. I think.
you know what's also a great adaptation is the second season of Slings and Arrows. That's just a fun Macbeth time.
Sure is.
What is Slings
Slings and Arrows
Sure
is a Canadian comedy show about a Shakespeare theater, and that's based off of a big deal Shakespeare festival in Canada that I can't remember.
Yeah, it's the we used to go all the time. It's
The Stratford.
Stratford Shakespeare
That makes
Festival.
sense.
And it's about
Yeah.
this actor that lost his mind playing Hamlet, having to come back and be the artistic director. It's quite. If you're a theater nerd, it's like It's a perfect easy
That's
watch.
great.
It is really great. It's like comfortable Canadian TV for theater nerds.
Comfortable Canadian TV.
But I hope this was a good first foray into. Peter hasn't seen anything and is trying to give himself a film education. Title pending. And thank y'all for listening.
Connor asked me how good it was.
How good was your dinner?
Better than the Eternals.